This program is for discussion purpose only. Business Plus TV or any of our anchor does not bear any responsibility or liability towards the content.
नाज़रीन अस्सलाम वालेकुम, गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम टू द प्रोग्राम इन फोकस। आज हम स्टूडियो के बाहर निकल के आपसे बात कर रहे हैं। वी आर एट वन ऑफ द प्राइवेट होटल्स इन कराची, जहाँ पे कि मार्कॉन 2016 विच इज़ द मार्केटिंग कॉन्फ्रेंस बीइंग हेल्ड हियर फॉर 26th and 27th of April। और ये कॉन्फ्रेंस जैसा कि आपको पता है कि हर साल मुनक़्क़िद की जाती है, और इसमें जो है फ्रॉम अराउंड द वर्ल्ड नाउ, इट्स लाइक इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस नाउ, जहाँ से कि टोटल experts of marketing and all the people who are the movers and shakers of marketing as well, they come round, and from Pakistan as well, they come and talk about different aspects of marketing। और इस वाला जो एडिशन था इसका 2016 का, इसमें हमने जनरली जो देखा वो बात की गई है अराउंड दिस डिजिटाइजेशन एंड द न्यू ट्रेंड्स इन द मार्केटिंग एज वेल। और सबसे अच्छी बात ये थी कि इसमें इस दफ़ा हमको बहुत सारे एक्सपर्ट्स जो हैं वो हमारे नेबर मुल्क जो कि इंडिया से बहुत ही सीजनड एंड वेरी लिटरेट मार्केटिंग प्रोफेशनल वर हियर एज वेल, एंड दे शेयर देयर व्यूज़ अबाउट हाउ द मार्केटिंग इज़ चेंजिंग। Now, if we talk about in general, the way marketing is happening around the world, it is in transition right now because of all the technological changes which are coming up, with all this digital media, digitization coming up. There's a lot of change happening with the culture and with the society also evolving out as well. So there's a lot happening around it. So this is basically, as I said, was the center of the whole conference this time. Or aaj we are very lucky that we were able to get hold of two of the even though there were like 4 or 5 people from India this time, but we are lucky to have two people here from India who spoke at the conference, and they delivered their speeches as well yesterday. मैंने personally सुनी थी, and I was so impressed that I had to arrange this interview in such a short time, and I'm very thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much for Kaushik Roy, sir. Welcome to the program in focus. Kaushik Roy जो है, he is the president of brand strategy and marketing communication for Reliance Industries in India.
Right.
And then other one we have is Bharat Avalani, sir. Thank you very much for being in the program, sir. And आप जो है, you are the member executive council for Asian Federation of Advertising Association, and you're based out of Malaysia.
Yes, I live in Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for being with us and sparing the time. And I heard that you're leaving tonight or tomorrow morning,
right,
and sparing time is excellent. Now, I'll start with you, Kaushik, that yesterday I heard you're reimagining the brand, like the marketing. I was very impressed the way you showed like different categories of marketing, then how entertainment has changed. So can you we heard it, there was a very small audience, but for the general public. So how do you think the whole marketing and branding has to be reimagined in this new era of marketing? Can you please shed some light on that?
Well, actually, my talk yesterday was looking at two very important things. One, what I said was that you cannot really think about innovation in isolation. Innovation ऐसी कुछ magic नहीं है कि अपने आप हो जाएगा. Innovation जो है, you have to recognize the fact कि हम जो innovate करते हैं वो किसी product पे या behavior पे या experience जो already है, उसके ऊपर हम जब कुछ करते हैं उसको हम शायद रीइमेजिनेशन बोल सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये भी सोचना पड़ेगा कि किसी ना किसी समय जैसे लाइट बल्ब हो या रेडियो सेट हो या ट्रांजिस्टर जो है वो भी किसी का इमेजिनेशन ही था.
Exactly.
वो जो चीज़ है वो अभी पुरानी हो गई, पर इन टुडेज वर्ल्ड all those things are still there because we cannot give up our basic requirements. We cannot give up the basic requirement of entertainment, let's say. And I think brands exist somewhere if you really look at it, whether it is sports or general entertainment, television or cinema. Brands actually, in a certain way, are partners, and they stay and thrive with this so-called the world of entertainment.
Right.
For as long as we human beings want entertainment, we will, as brands, need to reimagine ourselves in terms of how we are going to be in touch with our customers, our, the patrons of the brand. That is one thing. The other thing that I spoke about is the fact that like the railway came and the railroads changed everything, because suddenly people, goods, material could move from one place to the other. Similarly, the internet has been able to do that. It is almost like a virtual railway,
Right.
which has been created. The
Right.
tracks have been created, and therefore the whole way in which things are coming to me will come in a new way. So that is also, I think, the way in which things are going to get reimagined, which is to say that our basic requirements, जो चीज हमारे लिए एकदम essential है, वो रहेगा.
Right.
पर उसका delivery system जो है, वो reimagined हो जाएगा.
Okay.
And I think that is what we all need to acknowledge. And if we acknowledge that, it is good for us, because that is the way in which we will have a way to continue to do what we are good at.
Right.
Otherwise, we will all start believing कि हमारा जो expertise था वो खत्म हो गया. क्योंकि देखिए basic जो expertise है, आजकल बोलते हैं कि ये newspaper is over. Everybody is reading
That's what
news.
people were saying yesterday as well, exactly.
But the fact is, they're still reading the newspaper in a digital
in
format.
a different way, in a digital form, exactly.
So they're reading it off a mobile device,
Right.
whether it's an iPad or a mobile phone. So therefore, the fact that what is the core of the newspaper industry? The core of the newspaper industry is to gather news and to disseminate news. So therefore, you still need the reporters and the writers and the journalists. So therefore, their jobs are not gone. Only the delivery mechanism is changing.
Absolutely.
So I think brands like in India, Times of India, or for that matter NDTV as a television channel, both are very, very powerful internet brands where the new reader and the new viewer is not watching the TV or reading the newspaper, but they are consuming news
Right.
through their mobile devices.
So the need is the same, but the delivery mechanism has changed.
Yes, that is the
and the
reimagination.
brand people and the brand manager, they have to adapt to this change
Exactly.
if they want to be successful.
Exactly.
And whoever does not do that will
if
be
they fight
left
it,
behind.
if they fight it, they will lose the battle.
So they have to collaborate.
They
and
have to collaborate and move forward.
Excellent. Now, Bharat, coming back to you, you were telling me of there that you have worked for one of the very prestigious FMCG as well. Now, ethics in marketing, this is something different than, it has not been discussed here. But when I look at the marketing and advertising these days, even in Pakistan and some of the international ads as well, I think there is something missing in terms of, the ethical behavior. What they are showing is not very, conducive or not very something the kids should be seeing. So the behavior that they try to promote, just to promote the product, is not there. So what is your take on that? I mean, am I right to say that, or?
See, firstly, I would say that you don't have a choice but to be ethical. And the reason I'm saying it, because the power has changed. In the past, the power was with the brand owners. He had the money, and he could spread messages,
Right.
and he could spread myths, and the myths became a reality. And in those days, people were more trusting. People trusted advertising. People trusted what the brand manager claimed or said. But today, the power is entirely with the consumer.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Here we are in this private hotel.
Right.
Globally, people spend $20 billion US. All the hotels together, they spend $20 billion US on advertising. And take an example for someone like me who's coming to Karachi for the very first time, and I've been asked to stay in this particular hotel. And just before I give them my credit card, I check the TripAdvisor
Right.
and look for comments. And one of the comments is that the internet is extremely slow
Right.
and the room service takes long.
Right.
Do you think I'll cancel my booking?
Do you have a right?
And my answer is, I'll cancel the booking.
Okay.
Now here is a complete stranger whom I know nothing about. He has made a comment, and based on his comment, I made a decision.
Right.
On the other hand, the hotels, the advertisers spend $20 billion US. So the point I'm making, I'll trust my neighbor more,
Right.
or I'll trust the people or a consumer more
Right.
than the brand owner.
Okay. Okay.
So, and if you look at the crux of my presentation today, was to make the point that as marketers, as business, we don't have a choice but to tell the truth and be ethical. So I actually use the word truth rather than
Right.
being ethical.
Question I was asking because, I'll give you an example of
Ji.
one advertising.
Yes.
Again, from a good proper FMCG in Pakistan, they show that the kid comes in,
Right.
and he's coming back from school, and he talks to the mom saying that my teacher has asked me to go back home from the school. You're not allowed to sit in the school because your shirt is not clean. It's a detergent ad.
Right.
Now, and then he asked the mom that did you clean my shirt or not? So my daughter, she said first of all, the kid thinks that the mom is not telling the truth when she said that yes, I did clean your shirt. And secondly, why would somebody get expelled from the school because the shirt is not clean? So this is what I was trying to say.
So what happened in most developed countries? There's something called advertising standards,
right?
And the advertising authorities,
right?
Like in India, they have the Advertising Standards Authority of India. We have a similar one in Malaysia. And most of these ads would have been stopped before it goes on air.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not against regulating,
right?
because,
I think this should
because
be
there's enough regulation in our lives.
Exactly.
But as responsible marketeers,
right,
I think you need to self-regulate.
Absolutely.
And if I may a bit brash, consumers are not stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think,
and it won't work.
Right.
And I think it will do more damage than good.
My feeling is that, more than ethics, I think what you just defined, I haven't seen the advertisement, is a poor piece of communication.
Right.
I think that's a kind of advertising that the mother actually is, in this case, meant to be deciding on the brand. And a mother who looks at it and is put off by the fact that somebody is trying to sort of make the mother feel guilty.
My daughter made that comment that how can she doubt her own mom?
Sure. So I think that kind of advertising may not work. However, I just want to add one point here, which is one of the things which I think is wrong about advertising, and this has been discussed in many programs and forums, is that today's advertising, and not just advertising, even politicians, even the press, there is a tendency to instill fear into people. And unfortunately, that cannot be labeled as unethical.
Right.
But this whole idea of fear is a way of saying that if you do not do something, then you will fail.
Right.
So if you have pimples, then you will fail as an attractive person to attract either a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So that is the fear. Similarly, over here is about making a mother fear the fact that she will be seen as a bad mother.
Bad mother, exactly.
Now, unfortunately, and this is something which I think the society has a bigger role to play as well, which is that the advertising that you described, it is very difficult to put it down as poor ethics. But I think it's a reflection of the whole world, so to speak, where we are constantly making people aware of some imminent danger.
Right.
So getting to politics, and without really naming anybody, I would say that the whole world, if you look at the American politics of the presidential debates and things that are happening, it's all about fear. It's about somebody saying that, somebody is coming to take over your job.
Right.
Somebody is coming to take over your house.
Right.
So vote for me and I will protect this land and you. Similarly, over here, in our advertising, in a smaller way, we're doing the same thing.
Right.
So if you really look at advertising, in my view, the real concern is advertisements that generate a sense of fear.
Right.
To make the person believe that there is something which is not enough and not doing enough. And therefore, this person has to use that brand as a crutch to become a better person, a better mother, a better boyfriend, or whatever.
Right.
But
very rightly said,
I think it's actually a communication tactic.
Right.
So it can be either used positively or negatively. So look at some ways how it has been used positively. The fear of smoking.
Right.
Fear of AIDS.
Yeah.
Hand washing, which I spoke about this morning.
Right.
Now, if you don't give them that jolt, it won't work.
Whoa.
And look at life. Everybody says that you only got one life. Only after you get your heart attack, it dawns on you that you got two lives.
Right.
And your second life has begun again.
Right.
So I think it has to be done. वो नियत ठीक होनी चाहिए. The intent has to be clear.
But inculcating fear is not, doesn't work always.
उसका कुछ अच्छा हो.
Right. फिर तो सही है, exactly.
Then it's correct.
जैसे वो कहते हैं झूठ बोलने से किसी को फायदा हो तो then maybe you can lie as well, but it has to be in the right नियत. सही बात है. अच्छा, again coming back to you, Kaushik, if you look at the way it is to change the marketing, digitization, and the influx of so much of media and happening. So about the recall of advertising, the same question I'll put to you as well. And then how do they make sure that whatever the message is going out is not getting dissolved, because there's so much happening around.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to be prepared for is the fact that the brands, the way they were being looked upon, and almost certain brands enjoying a kind of monopoly is going to end.
Okay.
For the fact that if you really look at the way we have been consuming television, I mean, all over the world, in every country, there has always been one television channel which started.
Right.
And therefore, if that was carrying advertisements, everybody saw those advertisements. So therefore, it was almost like one place where you saw your programs, you saw your television ads, and so therefore the bigger brands controlled that and made sure that their presence on that channel, the single channel, was so dominant that there was no place for smaller brands.
Players, exactly right.
Now with so many different channels opening up, and channels which cater to, even if it cannot cater specifically to a very sharply defined segment, it can at least cater to regions. So imagine brands which are hugely successful across the country. Now there are brands which are local brands.
Local brands, okay.
Now the local brands have had tremendous success in the last few years that I have seen because of the regional channels. Because this local brand has no business to come on national TV because they don't have the distribution. And to be on national TV is a complete wastage because maybe
you don't have the market there. Maybe
90% of the money will be wasted. You're only catering to 10% of the market. So stay with that. Now with the internet, what has happened is suddenly the world has been opened up to you.
Absolutely.
Where you are choosing it not physically off the shelf, but from a virtual shelf.
Right.
So therefore there are all these, e-commerce platforms which are suddenly giving you brands, maybe you've never heard of them. And now look at what those brands of e-commerce are doing. They're giving you the same option as you would have had of a physical interaction in a transaction where you can return something if you don't like it.
Yeah.
So once that is happening, I think there is a great opportunity. And I believe, every new change is an opportunity.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity where I believe that every small brands, and I've seen this happen, like something as small as a Greek yogurt, which only used YouTube to advertise, only YouTube, is now a very, very large, successful brand in the US. Now, in the same way, I think that is the kind of thing that this is, I think, the world of options.
Right.
And the world of options, I believe, loyalty as we knew it, which is get stuck with one
brand,
toothpaste, one health drink, and one type of coffee or tea. Those are going to change. People are going to experiment. People are going to try out new things. And in that, I'm sure, we as, the brand managers, that is going to be our job. The bigger challenge is that how will we refresh ourselves?
Right.
How will we reimagine ourselves to come across as new and worth staying with?
Right. So, Bharat, now the same question in a different way to you. Like, there's so much happening, and so there's so much, world has opened up, the internet and everything. There's so many brands coming up. So, what do you think as a brand manager or a marketing or an advertising company somebody should do to make sure that to hold on to the consumers? Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because they have to sustain and they have to go on as well. So what do you think?
See, the information that we are bombarded with, my laptop has crashed twice.
Right.
At home, I don't even have enough memory.
Right.
So imagine if the machines cannot cope with the memory, so forget the brains.
Exactly.
And you know those numbers, the amount of information that is bombarded.
Right.
I personally can't even remember phone numbers.
Right,
So even
exactly.
my memory cannot take it. Forget advertisements. I can't even remember simple stuff.
Right.
So, and I'm happy that this is going, because the more you are this thing, the more you are challenged to deliver what matters.
Right.
So at the heart of branding, I think to me branding is actually a bundle of emotions. And I think we human beings are such.
Right.
that we'll remember facts only for a short while.
Right.
And we were good at remembering facts where we had to give exams. We don't need to give exams in our life anymore. But what we remember are the experiences and the emotions. And I remember when I passed out from college, my principal told me, he said, Bharat, remember, education is all that is left when all that is taught is forgotten.
Right.
And I've traveled to about 67 countries. And when I appeared for my exams, I had to remember the Battle of Plassey, dates of the World War, because that's what the examiners asked.
Right.
But today, I experienced what it meant to break the Berlin Wall.
Right.
I've been to Poland, where I've actually visited those camps.
Right.
And I realized in school I actually remembered the dates of the Holocaust, but I didn't remember the Holocaust experience. And there I experienced it. So what a brand manager needs to do is to keep those emotions alive. And that's where this art of storytelling comes in. And that's something that has come with us with the history of mankind.
Right.
So what has endured mankind or what has kept mankind going are not the facts that we have shared, but the stories that have been told and how the stories have evolved. And to me, a brand manager today needs to be a good storyteller.
Storyteller, plus I think it's a very huge task, again, to both of you, for any brand manager now, because okay, fine, you do a good campaign, or maybe on one of the medium, like maybe on the digital media and, on the press and the print as well, but how soon can you be forgotten? That's like the whole challenge, and how to keep it going on. I mean, that's, I think, the main thing.
To be honest, I feel more empowered today than when I was 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Because that time I was lonely.
Yeah.
It was me. But today, if I do my job well, the consumers do my job.
Exactly.
So all I need to do is share their stories.
Right.
And if you look at those examples I shared, it was basically true stories of what happens out there.
Right.
And what I have done as a brand manager is to search for the truth around me.
Right.
And share the truth, and magic happens.
Absolutely. Yesterday, there was another gentleman from India, Santosh. He was talking about how the branding has changed. He talked about things like it is not anymore. It's not a river. It's not a lake anymore. It's a river. So basically, it's like more consumer driven now.
Absolutely.
So branding job is done more by the consumers now. So they make and they promote as well, because you put something on the internet and they start talking about it. Somebody was talking about this example of Dove soap, I think. They said, that people were talking about not looking beautiful. And Dove started a campaign saying that, let's not talk ugly, let's talk beautiful. And it was like huge millions number of hits.
Let's talk beautiful.
Let's talk beautiful, exactly. So I think that's the power of this whole new digitization.
So I'll give you a recent example in Malaysia.
Yeah.
The number one telco, which has spent billions on advertising, building a brand, had a marketing campaign to generate trial in a remote part of Malaysia, where they gave highly discounted rate. And this guy calls up his friend in a city and he said, how much are you paying? And he said, I'm paying double than what you are paying. And he called up the telco and he said, look, I've been with you for 10 years and I've never been given this offer. Why have you given this offer to a friend of mine who actually works for a competitor, who has a competitor brand? And you know what he was told? He said, our strategy is to get new subscribers. So he said, how about me? He said, I've been loyal with you for 10 years. He said, you're not a part of our strategy. Now, this chap cannot even write English properly. But his emotions translated into words.
Right.
And you know what happened today? They lost 1 million subscribers in 2 weeks' time. And he said, you have cheated us long enough.
Wow. Okay.
1 million. And this is a person who has gone. That's the
communication.
Power of the thing. Now, if you don't respect that consumer, all your past successes, your nostalgia comes to naught. And that's the reality today.
I have to take a break. And then, when you come back after the break, we'll continue the discussion. Nazeen, थोड़ा सा एक break लेंगे. Break के बाद we'll continue the discussion, which I think is very interestingly going. So, just couldn't go away. Thank you. राजीव, वेलकम बैक आफ्टर द ब्रेक. ब्रेक से पहले हम बात कर रहे थे एथिक्स ऑफ मार्केटिंग में. हमने डिस्कस किया कि हाउ दिस रेवोल्यूशन ऑफ डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ मार्केटिंग इज अफेक्टिंग द ब्रांड मैनेजर्स एंड हाउ टू मेक श्योर दैट द ब्रांड स्टे अलाइव इन द माइंड्स ऑफ द पीपल. मैं एक थोड़ी सी बात दोबारा से करेक्ट कर दूं कि करेक्ट क्या कर दूं, मतलब एक थोड़ी सी एडिशन करना चाह रहा था कि जो भरत अवलानी है, ही इज़ बेसिकली एज आई सेड बेस्ड आउट ऑफ मलेशिया. ही इज़ अ मलेशियन बट ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन. And Kaushik Roy is our dear guest from India anyways. So, gentlemen, welcome back. Yeah.
Thank you.
अच्छा, break से हम ऑफ एयर बात कर रहे थे कि now ये कल भी बात हुई थी जो आप कह रहे थे ना. I think I was about to come to that anyway.
Yeah, actually, I was basically going to add to what you were saying, and rather what Bharat was talking about. It's the fact that, it cuts both ways. You can look at the whole situation of the social media where brands can be trashed, and like Bharat said that within 2 weeks you could lose 1 million customers. But I think the truth lies also in the fact that for years and years, brands have invested in market research. What were they wanting to know? They were wanting to know what the consumer felt about the category, what they felt about the brand, what they felt about competition, and various other insights were meant to be gathered. Now, look at the fact that today, every day, you have ready data to understand what the consumer actually feels.
Huge amount of data now.
Now, you can react by saying, oh my God, they're trashing my brand. And the fact is that if you didn't listen to your customer who was saying that look after me rather than the look after the new customer.
Exactly.
I mean, acquisition is a part of your business to make it sustainable, but you cannot ignore the fact that I already am your customer. So therefore, retention has to be equally important.
That's the key point, exactly.
Now, if brand managers fail to listen and start looking at the social media as something like, it's a devil, which is actually, generating all kinds of negative things, then there's a problem.
Right.
Versus if you look at it in a different way, if you start believing that what they're telling you is free information.
Free information without paying for market research.
Without paying for market research.
Without paying for marketing.
Yes,
I think it's a very good point. Exactly.
And in fact, your ads on the internet can get a like and a dislike.
Within seconds. I mean,
so this means that the ad is good.
Right.
So all those millions that you would spend on market research is actually coming to you free.
Right.
So look at it in the positive way.
Absolutely.
And therefore the brand story that you are supposed to be delivering, if it is not working, if it is failing, or if you're telling a story and not living up to the experience, then somebody is telling you that.
Exactly.
You got the consumers tell you that. I think what I would like to believe is that, there's a lot being said about the social media and how brands are getting trashed in the social media. And like Bharat spoke about this whole kind of experience where 1 million telecom customers were lost within 2 weeks because of a bad kind of experience. I like to say that, brands and brand managers were always meant to be listening to the consumer.
Right.
We spent millions of dollars in research to try and understand insights, experiences, category benefits, and all that. And now somebody is giving it to you free of cost.
Free of charge, exactly.
You know every day what the consumer feels about you.
Right.
If the consumer is saying nothing, it means you're all right. If the consumer is saying something which is negative, then you better listen to it.
Okay.
So I believe that this is also meant to be seen as a positive rather than a negative. And I think this is also meant to be something that will keep us on the right track.
Right.
So if we, for instance, understand the importance of retaining a customer rather than only looking at fresher acquisition, both are important. So if we, start ignoring the fact that I have some customers who are my loyal customers, I need to take care of them. And if I haven't heard that, if I haven't felt it, then I'm doing a bad job. So therefore, the internet is there today through social media and through even the response that you get. You put out an ad, which is seen on YouTube, you get a like, you get a share. From that, you know how many people like your ad.
Exactly.
So therefore, that's also, the kind of tests and things that we would do otherwise. So
and even from the views, you would know that your category is good enough to be viewed or not.
Absolutely.
It depends on how many views you get. Now, when you said that if you are not getting any likes, if the consumer is quiet, do you think it's good news? I still believe this. I think that's also bad news. They're just neutral about it.
Yeah, but it depends on categories.
Okay.
For instance, if, as Bharat spoke about the hotel and the hospitality category, there I think two things happen. Either you are very, very satisfied and you want to write something nice about your experience, or you're very unhappy and then you want to write something about that.
You would not give a good experience.
Yeah,
something experience
somewhere
you would not
in between does not happen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The other categories where, for instance, it's like almost like, part of your life, like your toothpaste and your tea or your coffee.
Right.
You seldom sort of, put out a post say that, today's coffee was fantastic.
Right.
You
Right.
don't.
Absolutely.
But if you felt that, this pack of coffee was not as good as the earlier pack of coffee that you've been having,
Right.
then maybe you'd respond.
Right.
And truly, I think this is where the test lies, which is I think consumers are very, very sharp. They know exactly. So therefore, if you are a packaged brand, and for reasons like, maintaining the price band, you've compromised on the mix of your coffee. And if I, as a consumer, drink it, I feel there's something wrong.
Different.
I will write. I say, guys, this
Right.
X coffee
Maybe it could be
is not
cheaper,
tasting like
but
the
exactly.
earlier lot. Have you also felt it? Now that means that I'm not satisfied.
Yeah.
So this, I think, is something that we need to understand that
Right.
at times no news is good news, but in certain categories, you need to always have a feedback to either tell you that, people are extremely unhappy or very, very happy. So, it depends on the category.
Can I say, Bharat, one thing? I mean, you also comment, maybe, Kaushik, if you think. I mean, जो हमने discussion हम कर रहे थे अभी, मुझे ऐसा लगा कि, that the way marketing has changed and the way it has been digitized and the way the response is so instant. So the difference is like, doing a stage show and a movie. Because on the stage show, जब आप stage पे होते हैं, the actors would get the response then and there. Either they're like, they get a big hooting or they get a lot of clap. So I think that's, you can, maybe it's an analogy, I don't know, just came to my mind.
That's a very interesting analogy that you brought up.
Yeah.
But let me give you another interesting thing which I discovered is that earlier what was happening was that, of course, a stage show was meant to be that the louder the applause, you
Exactly.
knew that it was
Absolutely.
a great show.
Yeah.
And you knew that there'll be repeat shows happening because of that. The same thing is happening with cinema.
Okay.
With cinema today, what is very, very interesting, and I think it's a fantastic category that we are talking about in the world of entertainment, which is so big,
Right.
both Hollywood and Bollywood, is that people are sitting in the theatre, the first day's first show, and not even till the end, somewhere by the 20th minute, they're sending out messages to say,
Telling, oh,
this
right.
is
Right,
amazing
absolutely.
film, man,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
watch this, or I'm just yawning and I'm going to sleep
Right,
in this
absolutely,
air-conditioned
yeah.
room
True,
because
very
this film
true.
is all
Yeah.
rubbish.
Yeah, true.
This is going out even before, so therefore, a huge investment like a film, it could be dying the first hour
of the
first
of
show.
the launch of the movie.
So
the
therefore,
show,
that
exactly.
is another interesting thing that is happening.
So it's not only for entertainment. If you look at today, only 12% of the consumer or the people will make a buying decision based on advertising.
12%, okay.
Only 12%.
Okay.
78% will make a decision based on a comment of somebody else.
Okay.
So I'll
That's
give you an
interesting.
example.
That's
Aram,
interesting.
so if you're buying your next phone, if you're buying your next TV, or whatever, the next purchase you're making where the capital is slightly higher, would you think you'll buy it just before you saw the just because you saw the advertisement? No, because it will create an awareness in your mind.
Exactly.
But then you'll ask, आपने ये try किया?
Right, आपने try किया, exactly right.
So
True.
this applies not only to cinema, but to everything. And
Right.
we live in a 24/7 world.
Right.
Those prime time days are gone.
Absolutely.
And you got to be on your toes 24/7. And
Right.
consumer, when they give you something, take it as a gift.
Right.
Imagine in market research, you pay them to give you the feedback.
Exactly, as you
and
were
that
saying,
spontaneous gift is probably worth millions.
Right.
Because without any prompt, she's actually telling you and she's giving you a chance. The fact that she has responded is that she's giving you a chance. If you've done a good job, shabas, continue doing the good work.
Right.
Because a brand manager, you also need to know what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
But if you have insulted her, she has had a bad experience, वो आपको मौका दे रही है.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And make the most out of that opportunity. She'll not give you a second chance.
Second chance, exactly. Now, technology, like you discussed in the beginning, the big data, the analysis, the business intelligence. Do you think the brand managers have to change and be aware, become a little bit more techie as well to do that? Or is that job, is it a combination now, or they have to have the right people?
Allow me to
Please, yeah.
answer that. I think let's not be too worried about this technology thing, because we are living in a highly dynamic world.
Right.
But I think what is important are basically two things. Number one is you must know what your intent, what your purpose, what your meaning is, what's your brand point of view. and be open enough to accept that there are things which are not being your control, but you know what is right and wrong, and things will take it. It will take its own
course.
It's our own course.
Yeah.
And let's not be unduly worried. But one thing that is absolutely important is that you got to love that person whom you are serving.
Right.
Now, if you don't have that love for that consumer,
That's the fundamental, the basic,
gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what has happened because of our education system, we have become extremely logical.
Right.
So I can debate with Kaushik till the cows come home. And trust me, consumers today are busy living their lives.
Right.
They have no time for our brands. They got enough.
have lots of
And for
time.
us, our brand is life and death. And the more you push it, the more you're going to disassociate the thing. So as long as you feel for the consumer, you'll be okay. Now what happens, most brand managers today, they think more and feel less. So the point I want to make is that bring the feelings
The
back.
feeling is that, okay.
Mohabbat lao, bring
think
the
you're
feelings
right.
back,
I think that's very
and
important.
everything will fall in place.
Absolutely, very important, very important.
Well, my view as far as technology is concerned and the brand manager's role, as you were telling me just now, is that I think one of the things that you have to understand that there are certain categories, and I think these are the new world categories where online behavior and also in the case of telecom, you can actually understand the consumer behavior in terms of what they're doing and what they actually like or they dislike. So therefore, the role of big data is going to be very, very important. For instance, since I am now very close to the whole telecom kind of business, and I understand over there that the kind of products that you're going to come up with, which is basically a combination of data and talk time and, how you're going to price it. These are the few factors that you want to play around with. You can actually only do that if you not sit with, papers and, sheets of Excel, but there is somebody who's actually doing this
Analysis.
algorithm at the back end, which is throwing up this whole thing to you, tell
Full
you that
report,
X number of people located in these kind of places at this time, they do these kind of calls or this is their behavior.
Absolutely.
So therefore you know that you can create a package around that, and that package has to be, and these are things which is again going back to the other point that I said, which is that today loyalty is driven by also certain very practical things.
Right.
In a category like telecom, where there are, things which are almost the same, you can't really change anything over there. If you believe if everything were to be the same, you would not continue to, have one telecom provider for yourself. And the classic example is India, where one of the reasons why the Android phones are extremely popular is because Android phones come with 2 SIMs.
Right.
And almost all these people who are prepaid customers, and that's the bulk of customers, they have 2 service providers. They keep switching between the 2 to decide whoever is giving a better deal is the one that they're going to be using. So therefore, consumers are very, very smart.
Right.
And you then have to keep pace with them to be able to understand that what are they looking for. So here big data will play a role. So therefore the brand manager, and I agree with what Bharat is saying, the brand manager cannot be an Einstein and also be a Rabindranath Tagore who's compassionate and he's got mohabbat and all that. So I think there are multiple players now that are required. Like there is a brand manager who'll try to understand the consumer insights and work on that and come up with interesting communication and all that. There would be other brand managerial role, which is about handling the data and coming up with insights from there
and giving it out to the brand manager.
So that it's now going to become a bigger play where many more people will have to deal with many
which
more
means
things.
more at the operations side of the marketing department now, which is going to be more cost.
Absolutely.
Basically.
You have to acknowledge this as a new stream that has been given.
And then there are more new avenues as well as we were discussing in the beginning to make more money.
I think that's where the brand manager needs to liberate more of her time to connect. Because if you are going to be caught up in this world, you'll be more disconnected.
Right.
So I think today all of us we make time to go out where the action is.
Exactly.
Because deciding for a consumer behind glass door is a very dangerous place to do marketing.
So Bharat, you have been part of FMCG as well, right? And generally the perception is that when the things are not looking, when the economy is down, the first thing, or the companies not doing well, the first thing is to cut down the marketing budget. So how do you relate marketing and advertising as such to the economy in general? What do you think?
So to me, there is a direct correlation between the advertising spend and the growth of the economy. So there's a correlation.
Okay.
So if your ADEX goes up, your GDP also goes up.
Right.
Now, what happens during difficult times is where you need to make tough decisions.
Right.
Because during good times, there is a lot of wastage.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And the best of me has come out where my resources have been taken away or my resources have been reduced.
Okay.
Because that's why I really need to think very hard. And I think this is good for us to do our spring killing, to make us lean and to make us do the right thing.
Right.
Because there's a lot of wastage that happens in the thing. So coming back, I have a much broader kind of thing. If you notice now, today the planet is failing. Look at the weather problems we are having. Look at the volcanoes. In the past, it was shooting each other. Now the natural calamities is taking away lives. Now what worries me most is the future of my child.
Right.
Because however good I am in my work, or however good Kaushik is in his work, we may be super competent. But if the planet is failing, none of us are going to succeed.
Absolutely.
The point I'm making is no business can succeed in a failing climate. And as a brand manager, as a businessman, you got to look beyond your brands. You got to look at the society. You got to look at what impact your decision has on the planet. So let me share one small story. I've worked in a company that has always told me that water needs to be conserved. Water is a scarce resource. But Malaysia, where I live, I don't pay for a water bill. It rains all year round. Water is free.
Right.
And it never dawned on me because I knew the facts, I knew the logic. But I did not experience what it meant not to have a water. A few years back, I went to East Africa on work. And I'd gone to Masai Mara, extended because I love animals. On my way back, my car was stopped by a Masai warrior.
Okay.
And when a Masai warrior asks you to stop, you better stop your car.
All right, obviously. Yeah.
And I stopped my car. And I asked the Masai warrior, what do you want? And he asked me, do you have some water? So I was on my way home, wanting to take a flight out of Nairobi. And I said, yes, of course I do. He said, can I have some? I gave him 2 bottles of the mineral water. And you know what he did in return? He gave me his handcrafted spear. He said, for the 2 bottles of water you gave me, you can have my spear.
Excellent.
And for a minute, I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I held on to the spear, took a photograph with the spear, and that was the moment it dawned on me that this is the future. Because the water, which was of no value to me at that point in time,
it was so much value to him.
Was everything to him.
Absolutely.
And the future would be the war for water. Now, how has that impacted me? If you come to my home, every bathroom in my house has got a bucket. Okay? We try not to have showers.
Right, okay.
The maids have been trained to switch off the taps.
Right.
While brushing, my son has been told not to keep the water running.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is what I do. Now, each one of us take on this kind of, and this is what I've done at an individual level, and I do it. And that's where I'm talking about as a consumer can take the responsibility. As business, you can only do so much.
Right.
So I think we got to think beyond. So even if you talk about advertising, budget and all that, I think one also needs to communicate for behavioral change, that there is less wastage, because in today's world, there is enough for everyone's greed, but not for everyone's need. And as Sikandar Saab said, that Allah has actually provided for all of us.
Exactly.
And if we respect those tenets, there's enough for each one of us.
Enough for each one, exactly. The equality is very important. What do you think about this relationship between the economy and exactly?
Bharat has spoken about is something that I completely endorse, and I do believe that there has to be a lot more put into our concern for sustainability, which I think is a bigger issue. Sustainability is not just sustaining a business, but sustaining the world and the natural resources. and there is a certain kind of lack of awareness, which is leading to a lot of problems. Where there is plenty, people are not aware of the places where there is scarcity. Having said that, I think your question was also about the fact that the role of advertising and marketing in the larger economy.
Exactly.
I would just like to certainly believe that, as long as we believe that the brands, as we call them, the FMCGs and the consumer durables, and these are basically brands which actually they're meant to spur growth. They're meant to be sort of such that there is an investment that creates these kind of brands as products which come into the market, and therefore people are expected to buy it. And now in today's world, there are various other things that have come into play. There are certain things that we could never buy. Let's say a motor car, most people would not be able to buy till banks started saying that you can take a loan. So therefore the whole ecosystem, so to speak, has undergone a major change, which is to say that today for every car that is bought, there is a bank which is lending me money. Without that money, I would not have been able to sort of afford that car. Behind that car are X number of people who are getting a job to make that car. And so therefore, this is how the whole
ecosystem of economic development is going on. I think beautifully said.
I'm
that's just for industry that you're quoting.
I only understand simple things, so I'll try to tell you in a very simple way. So I believe in all this. This is the marketing ecosystem. The marketing ecosystem is not about just producing anything and saying that please buy it. That will not happen. I think we know for a fact that, and I have seen that change happen, where a television brand which I was working for had to work with banks, had to work with credit card companies to come and offer certain schemes by which if I would buy that TV, I still wouldn't have to pay any kind of interest, the zero interest factor. I mean, all these things have been ways in which we have spurred growth.
Increase the production,
so
and the production
these
gets
are
more jobs.
Marketing initiatives which have happened, which is, it's
affecting the economy in general.
Therefore,
as well.
in a certain sense, if you really look at it, yes, there are problems across the world. Yes, there are problems more in certain South Asian countries that we have seen. But look at the fact that look at the numbers of mobile phones. Look at the numbers of television sets. How do you think these are happening? There is a very, very major marketing role in that, in which we are spurring the growth as far as economy is concerned.
Kaushik,
but we have to be
time
responsible.
Constraint aa gaya. Thank you very much for being with us. It was really a pleasure to have you with us, Bharat Saab. Thank you very much
Lovely
for
talking to you. Yes.
Being with us today as well. It was a very, very good discussion, and I think we learned a lot, and it was very good for our viewers as well.
Yeah.
And I hope we could have gone further, but I think the time constraint is there. But hopefully, inshallah, when you come back again, and I'm sure you'll taking back some very good memories from here.
Of course.
So, inshallah, we can sit down again and do the program in more detail then. I think thank you very much, and I think what I will take away from this program is that what digitization and what this immense explosion of marketing channels have done to at least the entertainment industry is that they've made the cinema into a stage as well. So I think that's how we can sum it up.
Sure,
I think that's beautifully summed up. Thank you very much for watching the program, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.